Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Read and Write with Natasha. Today we have with us Jordanian author Sara Badawi. So, here is a bit of info about Sarah. So, Sarah is an architect. She's also Jordanian and Canadian author, and she writes novels set in Amman, Jordan. Since she published her debut novel Beige and Blue in 2019, she decided to become a full-time author. So Sarah lived in Montreal and in Dubai, and when she writes, she loves to showcase the beauty of Amman to the world. She does that in her most recent novel Dahlia, and she also explores community issues and tries to resolve them. Welcome, Sarah, to the show. We're so happy to have you here. I've been following your work for a while on social media, and I've been really impressed by what you've been doing, especially as a young Jordanian author. So today we are going to talk about your most recent novel, Dahlia. I just finished Dahlia and I really enjoyed it. I was wondering if you can just give me a bit of a brief about the novel and what it's about, and for anyone who's interested in reading it, if you can just tell us a bit about the novel.
Well, okay, Dahlia is a novel that came from the heart, let's say. It talks about, and I always say that Dahlia is a character that needs to be found in every home and in every woman. You need to have that strength that she has in order to combat everything that you face in your life. It talks about a girl who challenges her neighborhood, the ones that have a close mind, let's say, that challenge a girl's dreams and achievements. And where a girl should not study and continue her education, and they should only get married and have children. We always hear about that, and this is an issue that is found all around the world. It's not only in the Middle East or in Amman. We know that. But Dahlia is, she's determined and she's strong, and she was able to get over this and to convince, especially her dad, her schizophrenic dad, as well. He's, let's say, the villain in this novel, and yeah, and her character is, it's inspiring, I guess, for every woman to read about her and to get to know her better.
That's great. Thank you for telling us about Dahlia. I really enjoyed it, and I have a number of questions, especially for about your target audience and who are you targeting. So a big theme in the novel is domestic violence, specifically against women, and we saw it in the character of her dad, whether it's against the mom or against Dahlia herself, and also the concept of honor crimes, which unfortunately still exist in Jordan and other countries. So when you were writing the novel, were you worried about the reaction that you were, airing our dirty laundry, and this is that you're exposing a bad side of the Jordanian and the Arab culture, and Arabs are already stereotyped in media, and writing about that might increase or augment the stereotype as Arabs being violent and abusers and all of that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
That's a good question, and that's exactly why I made the dad be a schizophrenic.
Okay.
It's true, yeah, it's true that schizophrenia is not a violent disease. This we agree on. I've done the research, and I know that schizophrenic people are not violent. It's true, but the way that he was brought up, and the especially, for example, the influence of his sister and all the people around him made him behave that way, and his disease augmented, let's say, this feeling and all the demons in his head, to become like that towards Dahlia. But I did not want to showcase exactly the point that all Arab men are stereotyped to be abusive and all of that. Not at all. I did not want this. Now, Dahlia is the complete opposite, by the way, because when I wrote Beige and Blue, it was nothing like that. Beige and blue was more, I was showcasing the beauty of Amman through beige and blue. So for any, let's say, foreign person who is not Jordanian, they would want to go on tourism, okay, to Amman. It's like that. I explained it in a visual kind of way. The protagonist is an architect, and she visualizes things, and I described it in that type of way. And the story was a bit westernized because I wanted the people from outside Jordan to be more related to it, to understand what's going on. Now, this is the backlash that I got. It's the complete opposite of what you're saying. Yeah, I got a lot of people telling me, this does not display our culture. And it's true, it does not display our culture at all. And that's when I took their comments into consideration. And this is when Dahlia came. I was like, okay, so you want something that reflects who we live in? Okay, let's do this. And I wrote Dahlia. But I need to tell you something. Dahlia comes from a place that I've actually witnessed and I've seen. Her neighborhood, I know that neighborhood exactly where it is. Every place in that novel is a place that I've set foot in and I've seen in real life. It is also inspired by, can I tell you this little story about a girl that I used to know?
Yeah, sure.
She lived in that neighborhood, okay, and she was a friend of my cousin. We were young, okay, and I used to visit her when we were still at school. Maybe it was like second grade or something, okay, and I still remember her having that husky voice, even though she was female, and she used to smoke at the time, and she was a mess. And when we grow up, and right now we have our own families and everything, I met with my cousin once, and I asked her about her, and for fun, I was only joking. I was telling her, so how is your friend these days? I bet she's using drugs. Okay, it was only a joke. And she told me, how did you know she actually died from an overdose? And
Her mom?
No, the girl that I was telling you about,
Oh,
my
wow.
cousin's friend.
Oh,
She
wow.
died from an overdose. And I was in shock. And I discovered that this message and this girl, yes, she's not Dahlia, but she's an example of a girl that is living in the wrong place, influenced by the wrong people, and doing the wrong things. And I needed to fix that in a way, and this is how Dahlia came out.
So basically, you took the character of a young woman living in
that neighborhood.
in a similar neighborhood than the one that you set in your book, and instead of making her a success story, you basically transformed her tragic ending into a happy ending.
Yes.
So that's what I mean. That takes me to the second question about what kind of research you've done for the novel. So you said that you already know the neighborhood, and so did you actually go to the neighborhood again and to help you visualize, or what kind of research have you done about mental illness and other stuff like that?
Now the research, and actually the places, no, I took them from my childhood because they were the places where I used to visit. Some of them, the areas where she had her bookshop, it's an area that I live close by. The boy that you see, Hassan, with the tray, the ones that dances with the tray, I bet you when you come to Jordan, you see these kids everywhere. Okay, yeah. And he is an example. So every time when I used to come towards my house, I would spot the same person every time, and this is how I was inspired by him. For the schizophrenia, yes, I've done a lot of research through reading books and through reading books, nonfiction and fiction at the same time, to see how it is interpreted also by other authors in fiction style. I wanted to make or to visit psychologists at the time, but Corona happened and we were supposed to be at home at the time. It was maybe around March. So that's why I was stuck more to reading.
Okay, that's great. So the other issue that I wanted to ask you about is, in the book, I don't want to ruin it for the reader, but there's a relationship, a love relationship between Dahlia and her cousin Jafar.
Yes.
So in the Jordanian and Arab culture, cousins get married, but
exactly.
In other societies, it's a bit of a taboo. It is actually a taboo, and I think in some society it's illegal. So based on that, are you worried about your target audience or a reader reading this and maybe being put off by the idea of cousins getting married? Have you received any feedback on that, or who is your target audience,
Okay.
or do you want to make a point that this actually still happens? As an author myself, I get lots of good and bad comments, and once I get like a hate message from someone criticizing where I came from, and he called me, yeah, you come from the land of cousins lovers. So that was basically that was basically an insult. And I'm so this made me think of your novel and the idea of a love relationship between cousins.
Okay. So far, Westerners, they never pointed that out, which is a relief so far. I
Okay.
tried my best to explain, and I've shown that I think twice in the novel,
Okay.
where she says that it's not allowed, and in some societies they don't allow this. But when she has that conversation with Hala, and Hala tells her, no, it's in our culture, it's okay, so it's fine to have that crush on him. Now, remember something. Dahlia, she lived in a neighborhood where the only male figure she would see every single day is Jafar,
Yeah.
right? She lives in a school that is all girls, obviously, and all she does is go to school and come back from school. And the only tough guy in the neighborhood is only him, and that's why, especially at the beginning when she was all against him, he's ignorant, oh, he's not like me, and all of that. But then when he shows her some affection, she starts liking him, considering the fact that she's only 18. Also, through that time, it is that area when we start developing and having these hormones and crushes on anyone that we see. So that's why the only person that she would have these feelings for is the person that she sees 24 hours in her life, other than Ja'far. Who can it be,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, yeah, it made sense in our Arabic culture. It makes sense. That's what usually happens, or either like the neighbor, for example, and he's her neighbor at the same time. So, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I understand. So, in terms of the genre for your novel, if I want to put this on a bookshelf, what kind of genre is it?
Yeah,
Romance?
women's fiction.
So,
Women's fiction, definitely.
so you would do you want to box yourself as a romance author, or you wanna
Oh, now this question is a tough one because yes, the first one was romance thriller. Beijing Blue was romance thriller. This one is women's fiction, and the one I'm writing right now is a thriller.
Okay.
So honestly, I don't know anymore.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask that because, Brahmins, they're huge, at least, here in the US where I live. And at the same time, they also get a bad rep. So
Yeah, that's true.
so I'm actually working on a YouTube video about why romance novels getting a bad rep. I mean, I actually was surprised that I do enjoy romance novels. I think I was influenced by the bad rep, but now I realize, especially after I started reading Colleen Hoover, I really enjoy
Oh my God. I was thinking you
she.
were gonna say her name, especially with it ends with us, no?
Oh, yes,
That's
from
the end.
TikTok. Yeah, from TikTok. Exactly, exactly.
I sent a message to my friend yesterday, I swear, and it was all in caps. I was like, I can't take this book anymore. I see it everywhere, everywhere. Even when you see a person talking on YouTube or anything, or any influencer or bookstagrammer, they have that book on the bookshelves.
I
And
know.
I still haven't read it yet, and I'm going crazy.
It's
So
really good. It's really, I mean,
right after I finish Caraval, I'm definitely gonna read this book.
okay,
Definitely.
great. You're now a full-time author, and being a full-time author is a dream for me.
Yes, I was gonna tell you. Same as you.
I am sort of a full-time author, but I do other stuff on the side. And I wanted to know more about what is your day like as a full-time author. What are your writing habits? Where are your routines? So, especially for someone who wants to be a full-time author.
Okay, so what I do in the morning exactly is like this. I start with the kids and obviously getting them ready for school and all of that. I have Fahad is 5 years old, Faris is 3 years old. So I get them ready for school and they leave. I start and I have a baby. Saif, he's 8 months old right now. So obviously he's the person that I worry about at the moment. Uh, During his second nap, which between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., that is the only time I have throughout the day to write something. That's it. And if I don't get these 2 hours or 1 hour and a half of my day, I will be in a very cranky mood. You need to get that energy out on paper, and this is how I start with my day. Now recently I don't know if you've been following me on Instagram. I have a new office. Okay, well, it's a home office, but I decorated it and I used, like you said, I have a new plant that I take care of every day, and yeah, and it's pinkish, because I have all my kids are boys, and this is the only female, room in the house, and it's decorated with pink everywhere. And this is the place where I usually write. So I have these candles, I prepare them, I prepare my cup of coffee, and that's what I sit down to write. This is my writing habit.
And so, what happens if you don't get these 2 hours?
Ah,
I mean, how would
usually that's a problem, because I always say that to people that are still writing. It's and I guess you do the same thing. It's very important to keep the flow of thoughts going. So it's imperative to write every day. Otherwise, you'd be lost a little bit. But unfortunately, I don't know if you have the same issue in the weekend. In the weekend, I can't. I don't have the time. And especially if my kids they have online learning. Oh, yeah, definitely. I won't have the time for that. So I won't be in a relaxed and vibrant mood like I usually am.
yeah, I hear you. I mean, for me, I like to wake up early before
Yeah.
they wake up, so I can write early in the morning. Excuse me, like at 6 a.m. And
Yeah.
that's really the time that I call it my like sacred hour, where I just sit and write. So
I understand, because I contemplated this idea the last time. I was like, maybe I should wake up at 5 a.m. and do that. And I'm like, come on, I sleep at 12 and I wake up at 5.
you'll get used to it.
Maybe I get used to it, yeah.
So I think I mentioned this previously, but I want to touch on the topic of feedback. And I know as authors, readers sometimes can be brutal, and they can like pick you apart, and they sometimes they don't understand how much work and energy you put in one book, and so their feedback can be harsh. For me personally, it took me a while to get over that. So I want to hear your methods of, if you get, and if, I hope you don't, but if you do.
I did get.
Okay, so what kind of feedback, negative feedback, and how did you deal with it generally?
Okay, so this is more of a inspiring story. When I wrote Beige and Blue, okay, I was sitting in a book club meeting, okay, with all of these women, and they were very nice and gentle. They were talking and saying their reviews, which I took into consideration. It's very, very tough for me, especially until now, to accept criticism. We have to, we have to as authors, but it's still very tough. And it was my first book, so they were very nice and gentle until this one woman came and she bashed it right in front of everyone. Okay, and I felt miserable. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Oh yeah, and at the same time I was writing a novel which was the same genre as Beige and Blue, and I stopped for 1 week. I couldn't even write one letter anymore. I was like, okay, I can't, I'm not going to be an author anymore. It's not me and all of that. Until one day after that week happened, I was driving for work and I kept on remembering her in my head. And I took all of her hateful comments like that in a challenging way. And I was like having this dialogue in my head, either a dialogue or a monologue, I don't know. But I was like, you know what? If you're saying that my characters are 2D, well, let me see what I can show you. And that's when I wrote Dahlia. And I started like Googling and, and searching everything that I can about, well, because when I wrote Beige and Blue, it was more of a hobby. I didn't really get into the details of how to actually write a novel, a successful novel, let's say. And that's when I started taking courses, developing myself, and doing all of this research when I created Dahlia. And now I want to see that woman again. I get that book. And I'll be like, let's use two-dimensional now.
So what was her general feedback? I'm just curious.
The two-dimensional thing. She was like, oh, your characters are two-dimensional. Well, you need to understand one thing. Beige and Blue is a romance, but it's YA. Okay. So my target audience were YA, and all the teenagers, they were in love with it because it was more of a love triangle situation. One loved Basil, one loved Ziad, and then they were like obsessed with the characters, and it's beautiful. But that woman, she was in her 60s maybe. So obviously it's not in her genre. And but when I wrote Dahlia, I made sure that my target audience was almost all ages. It's kind of like that because I wanted to send a stronger message there and for everyone to read. Another hateful message I got once, by the way. It was through social media. Okay, when I started doing all of these videos, until now I do them about writing and reading. And I got one hate message going like, you're telling us to read, we can barely afford to buy a book, and you're telling me to read. I didn't reply, okay, but I was hurt, okay. And my reply for him would have been, maybe if you read, you can develop a way to get more money. And this is how I created Abu Anas in the novel. When he had that, a small supermarket, and he started listening to audiobooks and business books and everything, and he developed it into a hypermarket. He was an inspiration from that person. So maybe I use all of these negative comments, transform them into something, and get something positive out of them. I hope I keep this going on.
Yeah, that definitely will. I mean, one advice I can give you is a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, one of my favorite authors, and it's a nonfiction book called Big Magic, and it's about being in any form of a creative field, and she talks about when people criticize you and how you deal with that, and she says thank them and then say go make your effing art. So I wonder if that woman that criticized you has she ever written a book? Probably not.
No.
Yeah, so it's so easy to criticize someone, and those who criticize you actually usually do less than you. So that's something always to remember. So okay, I'm gonna stop with the preaching. So why did you choose to write in English?
I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, especially since now, since I live in Amman right now, so everyone is criticizing me of come on, everything I do is in English. Okay, let me explain to you this. I was 10 years old when I went to Montreal to live there. I lived for 4 years, and throughout that time, because it's Montreal, I started learning French. So I was basically adding a third language into my system. And it was then when I started reading novels, and when I read novels, it was all in the French language. When I started writing as well, I remember I was a big fan of anime, okay? A big fan of Japanese animation. I don't know if you guys have this in the US. Every Saturday, I would wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning and watch all of these animations and all of these shows. It was a big thing. And it was when I was thinking about creating my own animation. I drew the characters. I used to draw a lot at the time, and I developed the story in my head. And I remember one day I told my mom, I daydream about certain stories, and she told me write them down. I was like, okay, I'm too young to write things down. Are you sure? She was like, yeah. And I had this notebook. I still have it here, and it's a mix of 3 languages, by the way. It's in English and in French And whenever there's a word that I don't know, I write it in Arabic. It's like that, yeah, a mix of everything. And throughout that time, when I came back to Jordan as well, I was writing unpublished novels at the time. Okay. And when I came here, I took the O levels and the A levels. So all my education was in the English as well, in the English language. So speaking about literature terms, my English is much better than my Arabic. And when I went back to Canada, I went back again for university. So the whole thing, unfortunately, made my Arabic language. Yes, I can talk and I can write, but my writing, it's not that good, unfortunately. And now I feel more confident and more creative when I write in the English language, and it's more international. I want, like I want to be the next Elif Shafak, or the next Khaled Hussein.
Yeah.
This is my dream.
Yeah, well, you can do it. Just keep at it.
Inshallah.
I mean, yeah, Elif Shafak, she writes in English, correct? She's Turkish and she writes in English.
Now she writes in English. At first, she used to write in French.
Okay.
French, sorry, in Turkish.
Yeah,
and now she writes in English.
Yeah. So, all right. So now we're gonna go a bit technical, and I wanna ask you about the technical side of writing. So you self-published the book, correct?
Yes.
You self-published both of them. So I wanna know first about the whole process. Why did you self-publish? Did you try to get an agent and didn't work, or was it too hard, or what's your thought about self-publishing? And I also know that like the editing is quite good. So I was wondering if you did the whole editing yourself, or if you hired a professional editor.
Oh, okay. For the publishing itself, it took me 5 years to write Beige and Blue, and throughout these 5 years, all I was doing was researching whether I should self-publish or traditional publish, either this or that. That's this whole time. And at the time, I was living in Dubai as well. I don't know about you. Okay, you're so lucky because you live in the US, but for me, it's difficult, and the competition there, it's crazy. Okay, because I really wanted to publish, to traditionally publish a book in the US, especially. And I contacted a lot of agents, and I would obviously get not a good feedback from them. And that's why in the end, I was like, okay, what's the problem here? My problem was then was I wanted to showcase my books in bookstores. Well, now that I live in Amman, I can easily do that. Okay, I know that in the US, you can't do that if your book is self-published, right? You can't showcase your book in a bookstore.
It's hard to showcase it. I think maybe specific cases, like for example, The Martian was self-published first, and then it picked up by a publisher. But yeah, that's true, and many places won't even review it.
Exactly. Now here in Jordan, that's not an issue, especially if you write in the English language, by the way. Yes, my audience is not as big as if I wrote in the obviously Arabic language, but it's easier for me to, because Amman is small, I can go to each bookshop and just give them my book, So that's why when I thought about it, plus I have the freedom of doing my own design, I have the freedom of submitting my book whenever I want to. So it gave me the freedom to do anything that I wanted. And so I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it my own way.
Okay.
And I literally self-published my book from A to Z. As for in Beige and Blue, I contacted freelancers for the design for the book cover. And in Dahlia, I did my own, but then I also contacted the same designer to make it better. And for the editing, so far I've been contacting maybe five editors so far that I've been working with, because obviously for one book, you can't have one editor. You should have minimum two. One who does the proofreading and one that does everything else, basically. So that's why I've been talking with native Canadian editors, and for the proofreading, an American editor as well that I've become friends with at the same time, because you need something that you can really trust.
So I'm curious, also a technical question, how do you find them? Upwork, or like how do you find those editors? Where do you go to find
99 oh no, okay, for the editors there's a website, actually. It's called editors.ca, as simple as that. And you find all the editors that you want, and they're official. That's what makes it really comforting. for the design99designs.com. Yeah, and I just contact them, and it happens. It's amazing because I was at a time, especially when I wrote Beige and Blue. Okay, when you start asking people that have published a book before, please help me, and they just don't. I don't know why they do that, and they don't give you that information at all that you're seeking. And I was like, you know what? I am gonna do this by myself. I'm not gonna seek the help of anyone. So I was here sitting in Amman in my kitchen table, literally opening my laptop and going through the whole process of writing, of editing, of publishing, and of printing and distributing, all on my own.
And you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but as a self-published author, you have to put money out of pocket. Are you still in the hole, or have you made what you invested?
Of course not.
Yeah. That's I think one of the issues for self-publishing is you have to have some investment ahead of time to be able, and then you recuperate what you paid for. And while you get all the money, and you don't get royalties, like, because you don't have a publisher or an agent, at the same time you have to sell a lot of books to recoup
Exactly.
what you paid in advance. So all right, so I want to talk a bit about your reading habits. What do you like to read, and what kind of books are you reading now?
Oh yeah, I love that question. Okay, right now I'm reading. Obviously, Caraval. Everyone knows Caraval. It's the fantasy book by Stephanie Garber, I think her name. I am in love, and last year, maybe because I've given birth at that time, maybe the only books that I've read were only 10 books, and some of them were even incomplete. And I didn't read that thing, when you read a book and you put it away and you start daydreaming about the characters, throughout your whole day. Yeah, I didn't have that sensation throughout the whole year. And now when I read Caraval, I was like, this is it. I'm living the life, finally. I found something that I love that much. So I'm finishing it right now. I'm in the third book finale. And after that, I was gonna switch. I think I'm gonna read the Colleen Hoover one. Yeah, and usually I love reading thrillers, and it's been such a while that I've read fantasy. I used to read them maybe like 10 years ago. So that was the first one that I picked up recently. And this year I'm gonna challenge myself to read different genres, and that's what I've been doing also from last year, to try to find something new every time.
So any authors that inspire you, like that you steal from, or like just you want to be like them?
Yeah. Okay, so I've told you obviously about Khalid Husseini. He's the best for me, but I have a thing for not Colleen Hoover, her best friend, Taryn Fisher. Yeah, exactly.
That's her best friend.
She used to be a self-published author. Yeah, their best friend.
I'm gonna be taking notes now. All these books that I'm gonna be reading. All right, okay.
I was such a big fan because she was a self-published author as well. The same thing as Colleen Hoover. They took the same steps, by the way.
Okay.
And in her maybe 10th book or something like that is when they finally took her book and turned it into traditional publishing, and she finally became, she was famous even before that. And I even found that her self-published works, by the way, they're much better than now, by the way.
Wow. What does she write? Does she write thrillers or?
Yeah, she writes thrillers, but she has that thing where she always talks about herself that she loves villains. She loves these these what do they call them?
Anti-hero? Or?
Yeah, the anti-heroes, exactly. And I also like these kind of characters. So I appreciate her writing style, and I feel that my writing style almost looks like her. I don't really, it's not the stealing. It's been a while that I've read something of hers, and now I'm getting, a friend of mine told me that my writing resembles Colleen Hoover's. So I don't know when I'm gonna read that book. I'm gonna judge. I don't know, but maybe I should become their third best friend.
Yeah, I thought a bit about Colleen Hoover because the interesting thing is that I just finished Colleen Hoover, and then I picked up your novel, so I kind of felt some sort of a similarity. between the style, the love part, the kind of relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right. So, in terms of Arab authors, or Arab American, or Arab Canadians, or European authors, that Arab authors that write in English, anyone that you like to read, or you want to become like them, that inspire you to be like the next, I don't know, I can think of like Diana Abu Jaber, Jordanian American author, or someone like that.
Unfortunately, I have to say that I guess all of my in how am I gonna say this? Maybe all the books that I've been reading recently are by American authors, and that's why yeah, I should. That's the thing. I should, I guess, invest more time in reading even Arabic literature.
Yeah,
Like I've been having these 3 books to read, Christmas, and
I read
the
Christmas.
one, yeah, by Berjas. I've been dying to read them, and they're still on my shelf. And every time I try to pick it to read it, I go like, oh, but I have another to be read book by another American author, and unfortunately, I picked the other one only because of the fact that I write in the English language,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I learned from the English literature better.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are you working on?
Oh, a thriller.
All right. Would you be able to expose some of the
Yes,
plot?
just
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Okay. Obviously, I always include traditions, and it's still set in Amman and all of that. Yes. Um, it talks more of a middle class family, but it explores the relationship of a mother-in-law with her daughter-in-law. Let's keep
Ah,
it like that. Yeah.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
and it's a thriller, so someone killed someone. She must have really liked her mother-in-law. Okay, we'll see. Uh, so you're also gonna self-publish it.
I don't know yet. Honestly, I don't know yet. It's a big issue, but because every time that I write a novel, well, obviously it takes me a while. So now I think I might maybe publish it next year, probably. So throughout that time, I'm gonna be having enough time to contact other people, to get to know others. Maybe I can, in a way, traditionally publish it. I hope so.
So, what keeps you going? I mean, as authors, we always kind of dwell in self-doubt, imposter syndrome, all of that. What keeps you going? What keeps you like, okay, I want to publish the second and the third and the fourth? What drives you?
Um, Maybe because um, maybe it's the competition that I have in me. Okay, I've been a very competitive person ever since I was at school, always to be the top in everything, the first in everything. Like even when I used to sit at an exam, for example, if I finish, if I write the exam and somebody leaves before me, I would be like, no, I need to be first. I need to be first. It's like that. Okay, so
Okay.
it's, I guess my feeling, it's that feeling of, oh, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm gonna continue no matter what. So maybe that's the thing that I always have in my head. Maybe I had that situation once when I first wrote Beige and Blue. You show your manuscript to your beta readers, right?
Yeah.
And these beta readers at the time were my friends. I chose 4 of my friends to read them, and I told them, yeah, exactly. And I told them, be sincere with me. It's okay. I can take the criticism. And I'll tell you what, I did not take the criticism easily. I was hurt. Okay, and they were like, they told me the truth. They were honest, and they should be honest. And I was so sad and so mad at them, all of them, because they said negative things about the manuscript. And at the time, I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna write anymore. And yeah, I was it was out of it, and I left everything. And it took me exactly 24 hours. I woke up the next day, and this is when everything came back. That challenging sensation again. Oh, I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
That's it came. Yeah, and I fixed. Obviously, I took everything that they said into consideration, and consulted a really professional editor also at the time. That helped me so much with the novel, and to make it the way it is now.
Oh, that's nice. So do you still have beta readers? Do you do that for
I
every-
have to. I have to. I have to. Yeah,
and
no matter what.
are they like authors, or they're just friends?
They shouldn't be authors. They should be readers. They should be bookstagrammers. All of these people that are, those that have, these that come every year and tell you that they have a target of 100 books to read every
Yeah,
year. Yeah,
yeah.
these are the ones that must be my beta readers because they have enough knowledge to criticize a book and to actually compare mine to other things and to give me
Correct.
good
Yeah,
information.
very, very good point. So let's say, maybe a cliche question, but someone in Jordan who wants to write a novel, let's say in English, he wants to be the next Sara Badawi. What do you tell them? What do they have to do? How do they get there? Few tips that you would give to an aspiring author.
That's why I created my Instagram account in the first place, and that's why I went into social media. I was never ever the person who would stand in front of a camera and talk. Ever. I was always that ghost, okay, on social media who would only like, and I would never comment on anything, and I would always stay by the side, never do anything. And when I told you that I did everything on my book, and throughout the research, I knew that I need to go to be public on social media and to showcase my book more, and I was really scared. And I contacted someone who still helps me until now. She's a social media expert, and she's the one who pushes me every time to stand in front of a camera and talk and then do all of these things, because until now I'm a bit scared. But I do something that I just mentioned it to you before. When there were people who were not helping me at the time, I took that decision that I want to start helping people write their books. That's what I want to do because of one message only. We, as you know, in Jordan in general, or in the Middle East, we always say that we are people that don't read.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to heighten up, let's say, the level of competition. I want more people to, maybe if I give few good tips everywhere, people can learn from these and progress their writing, and please become the next Sara Badawi, become even better than me. Then we would increase the bar, we would become better in literature, and maybe people were gonna start saying, Jordanian authors are they're the best. Yeah, this is what we want to hear. It's a big message that we want to portray, me and you and everyone, I guess, to the world. Right?
So 5 tips. What would you give them? What would you
Okay. Never ever ever take no for an answer.
Okay.
Please make your writing a habit that you write every day. Please accept criticism no matter what it is. Always write on a laptop. Please don't write on a piece of paper, because I get a lot of people telling me and showing me on a piece of paper. No. Be professional from the beginning, and whenever you want to write, type it out, because when you want to show your work to agents and everything, you need to have everything polished and beautiful. What do you suggest the 5th one would be? What do you suggest?
I would say just read. I mean, reading is number one on my list.
Thank you.
So just try just to read as much as you can, absorb, and eventually you start pick up on the good writing structure of famous or accomplished authors. So I think reading is number one. So when do we expect to see your next novel?
Okay, because I'm writing a thriller, so it's very difficult. Okay, it's very difficult for people to not know who the killer is. Yeah, okay, and it, yeah, when I read a thriller and I already guess throughout the book who the killer is, I get very angry. Okay, at the author, and when I hear other reviews from people who didn't see it coming, I become even more furious. So I want to be that person that would that render you in shock when you read that novel, and it's much harder than I thought. So I was thinking also about writing a prequel for Dahlia that explores the history of the father, and how did he become that way. And I still have that idea in mind. So probably when I publish what I'm writing right now, I hope it doesn't take me, maybe it takes me less than a year. I'm gonna start concentrating on the other one.
Great. So one question that I wanted to ask I forgot. But no, yeah, I remember now. So it's about, I noticed that the book is available on Amazon in the US only in Kindle format. So any plans to, what was the issue with, or the obstacle you
Yeah.
faced? I'm just curious to know.
I think you picked up the idea that it was an obstacle. It's still an obstacle of publishing, of self-publishing. Now, if I wasn't living in the Middle East, things would have been much easier. Now, my book, since you live in the US, you can buy it. It's fine, and it's available on Kobo, on Scribd, on Barnes and Noble. It's available on all of these places, because I don't publish my book specifically through Amazon. I don't do that. I publish it through something called Drafted Digital. They are the distributors
Okay.
that send my ebook to all of these online shops. That's what happens. This is my second book where I do that with them. There was a reason why I did that through Dahlia as well. Maybe because already it was much easier to do that through them. But still, I need a lot of, I guess, more research to figure out how am I gonna publish it on Amazon, where other people from all around the world can also access it. It doesn't specifically need to be from the US as well. And it's much difficult that it's difficult because when I contacted Drafted Digital, they said that they only can distribute it to US stores only. And since I have signed documents with Amazon and through them, that's it. So I'm afraid that if I can cross them and contact Amazon directly, I might start more problems. Yeah.
All right. So any final thoughts, comments before
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to finally talk to you, because here in Jordan, Natasha Times is a big name. And we
Really?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I remember when I did my the book signing, the book launch of my book. I think and readers, I saw your name. You were either like a week before me or maybe a week after me. But I remember when I was passing there, I noticed your name, and I saw pictures of you as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, we all know you, and my friend Ragat as well. Remember when she
Oh,
did that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's my friend as well. So yeah, we all know you, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm really happy that I got the chance to meet you, and I was even tracking you on on let's say on Goodreads when you had my book on that you wanted to read my book as
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm planning on reading your book soon as well.
Sure. Yeah, no rush. I know it's hard to find time to read with kids and everything. So thank you for joining us today, Sarah. I really enjoyed our conversation. You inspired me as well to keep going. I myself sometimes go through, self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all of that. So thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for watching another episode of Read and Write with Natasha. And if you like this episode, make sure to check out the Author Spotlight series on this channel. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much.